when Salesforce first launched in 1999, that's when this whole SaaS trend started. But over the years, organizations have not just been consuming applications as a service, but they've increasingly been consuming security and networking as a service from the cloud, right? And there was a recent IDC research done, and according to that research forecast of IDC, it estimates that 60% of public cloud infrastructure spending growth by 2020 is going to be to deliver SaaS solutions. So that's a significant trend, and we see it growing all the time. So here to talk to us about why organizations are increasingly consuming services from the cloud is Troy Hager. He's Director of Products here at Infoblox, focused on our security SaaS solution called ActiveTrust Cloud. And I'm a product marketing manager here at Infoblox as well, and we're going to discuss this concept in depth. Troy? So can you give us a little bit of insight into this changing landscape, right? Why are organizations increasingly consuming networking and security from the cloud? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a great question. I think that there's a lot of factors that go into the decision making for customers today around cloud services in general. I think for security, it's really not any different than any other cloud-based service or function in the decision making that our customers are going through. There's a lot of parity with the same types of decision making points. But just to recap a few of them, I mean, customers today are looking into CapEx versus OpEx, cash flow considerations. That seems to be a big driver in whether or not to move to kind of a cloud-based subscription model versus an on-prem traditional appliance and networking gear and related models. The second decision point, I think, involves more around ripping and replacing. There's a big movement to be sensitive around requiring customers to kind of use the term rip and replace their current investments and architecture right around their network. So being able to support cloud as a layered approach that can be easily extended on top of what they already have kind of gives another benefit towards moving towards a cloud solution. A third one that comes up quite frequently is time for deployment, just how long it takes to get up on a new solution, whether it's security in this case with DNS or any SaaS-based offering, right? And so customers are moving more towards the cloud and SaaS deployments because it's easier to do, it's quicker, they can have a much shorter timeline. In some cases, we see customers getting up in a month, right, from time of trying it and POCing to going into a production. It's really easy to kind of layer on top of what they have today, which really speaks to, I think, the fourth talking point on this is just the whole ease of evaluation, kind of proof of concept. How does the service work? How can we get familiar with a new service like DNS security and actually verify and vet out all the functionality and their policy controls and how the threat data is going to be reported to them. So just being able to set something up quickly, get into an evaluation or a POC, in a matter of a couple of hours in some cases, really allows them the ability to kind of migrate more towards the cloud, where traditionally it would have been a lot more difficult to really examine how they would use a service like this. And then lastly, we are seeing, just based on straight needs of the customers, I mean, a lot of our customers have either branch offices or outlier networks or remote users or workforce from home. So in those kind of situations, having a cloud service is very easy for them to deploy, and it kind of rounds out their offering in a way that they couldn't offer on-prem.
Great. Okay. So, so I think we have a good idea of kind of why organizations are going to the cloud. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about DNS, DHCP, and IPAM. And I know, Troy, you talked about DNS security. So to set some context, right? So DNS or domain name system is the way that users can connect to the website or any resources that they want online. DHCP is the way to assign automatically dynamic IP addresses to network assets. And then IPAM is just a centralized automated way to manage all the network assets using its IP addresses. So, and when it comes to DNS security and DNS-based threats, right? So we've seen situations where DNS is actually exploited by bad actors, malicious agents, be it to launch attacks on the DNS infrastructure, or maybe for malware to spread within networks, or even exfiltrate data, right? So the standard DNS DHCP IPAM, while it's all businesses need it and they can't function without it, it's not a secure, by itself it's not secure. So customers need a DNS layer security, as you know. So bad things happen, and then So do you see, Troy? Do you see customers looking for cloud-based DNS security solutions? And if a customer already has, obviously they may have something on-premise for their DDI. So do you see them consuming DNS security from the cloud? What are the synergies there?
Yeah, I mean, I think for customers, there's a lot of different options there that you talked about, both, how we can leverage their existing DDI investment. That's one of the discussions we get into with customers. They have extensive network gear, appliance models from us, and complex architectures and different layers of protection. So all of those things definitely come into play. One of the nice things about our cloud solution, right, as we talk with customers, is the first thing that kind of comes up is, what is the best approach for them, right? Is it to refresh in some cases, depending on what appliance models they have of ours and what their network architecture is? Does it make sense for them to refresh any of their appliances or upgrade them to newer devices? Or depending on what they already have deployed, can we leverage, right, the investment they have and run different security firewalls for DNS on those existing appliances? Or do we do a hybrid approach where we kind of do a best-in-class solution for them to run? In some cases, we'll run stuff on-prem. In other cases, for like remote users or branch offices, we can run stuff in the cloud. And then there's just, like we talked about earlier, those customers who are just kind of cloud-centric. Maybe it's because they want to be able to bring up the service quickly, or other cost factors that just want to go into the cloud only. The cloud also provides, another reason we see customers that have on-prem DDI, implementing a full-blown cloud installation, is the ability for the cloud to provide additional, scale and size of the actual protection and our services. So just, on-prem, as we talked about the different appliance sizes, well, along with that comes resource limitations. How big is their box? How many indicators in our different data sets and data feeds for blocking on DNS can they support? How many of our big data algorithms can be ran on-prem within those different appliance sizes? In the cloud, right, that's one of the things, again, across any cloud-based services, leveraging the full size and scale of the cloud to provide that best-in-class protection. So that's something that we're really focused on. So I think the other thing that we look at with the cloud for customers who have existing on-prem DDI is being able to really integrate and get advantages of being the sole provider for both their DDI and their DNS protection. That gives us a lot of advantages that we can bring to the customer in terms of our feature set. Things like being able to, once there is a threat that occurs on their network, being able to have context around that threat. What host had that? What's the source IP? What's the MAC address? What's the DHCP fingerprint? What other data points do we have in our network as Infoblox DDI that we can leverage up into the cloud along with the threat reporting to help the customer more quickly kind of understand the scope and the magnitude of the threat, but also identify and remediate that threat on those actual instances on their actual network. So there's a lot of benefits to having DDI and layering on, whether it's our on-prem DNS components or our cloud-based solution, and then the interoperability between those.
Yep. And the cloud-based solution also offers the protection for devices wherever they are, right? They don't necessarily have to be within the corporate network. So I think that's a
correct. Yeah, and some customers want to extend upon what they do with us by enabling additional user protection just for remote users. Some customers want to layer on to their DDI on-prem a full-blown cloud installation. So we can customize, the scenario based on the customer demand for both hybrid, on-prem, cloud, or any kind of combination of those.
Yeah, yeah. And let's say, Troy, they already have some sort of a DNS security solution on premise. Let's say they have, like a DNS firewall or an RPZ on-prem. What additional benefits will they get if they layer on the cloud solution as well?
Well, I think first in security, what we work with our customers on is the layered approach of security, and that's always kind of the forefront of security is how do we look at what they're doing today and then add on additional, value, more protection. In the case of the cloud in this scenario, there are a couple of key things that kind of stand out. Number one is just, again, the scale of the cloud. Most of the times when we work with customers, what we find is that the breadth of the amount of stuff that we can cover in our cloud. We have, millions of indicators up there. We have 6 different big data algorithms that we run to block tunneling and exfiltration, other types of threats. We do behavioral matches on patterns of use and all kinds of other different, threat patterns. And the bad actors are always evolving their techniques. So being able to leverage the cloud is a great way to kind of increase your protection to a variety and a breadth of different types of threats. In addition to kind of the scale and size and all the different protection and prevention things that we put up that we support in the cloud, there are expanded use cases, right? I think we talked a little bit earlier about, I have a DNS product today, however, it's not protecting my roaming users or my workers from home, or certain offices where I don't have the same level of gear or the solutions aren't installed on-prem for branch or remote offices. So being able to kind of supplement around your perimeter, but also being able to expand the depth of your protection is how we look at things. The last piece that I would point out is kind of having a single pane of glass, some uniform way of understanding your global DNS traffic, your global DNS threat and risk piece. So, whether you have some things running on-prem or you have other services, and then you have some things running in the cloud, being able to pull those all into our cloud, regardless of where they're executing, and provide kind of an integrated reporting and policy control is also a big value to customers.
Right. Great. Those are great points. I want to remind the viewers that Infoblox actually has both an on-premises-based solution for DNS security, and we also have a cloud-based SaaS offering as well for DNS security. So the on-premises is called Active Trust, and then the SaaS-based solution is called Active Trust Cloud. Now, there may be other vendors out there who also offer some sort of a SaaS-based DNS security. So Troy, what do you think are kind of what differentiates Infoblox, right? Let's say a customer is evaluating different options, and they're looking at offering some different vendors. What would you say from your interactions with all the customers and the wins that we have? What would you say resonates most in terms of what makes us unique and different in the market?
Well, there's a lot of individual features and things that we could get into, capabilities, but I'll summarize 3 or 4 of the broader context of kind of our differentiation. I think number one is just, the ability to support these hybrid models for customers, whether they have the DDI on-prem from us and deploy some kind of on-prem firewall for local resolution, being able to support adding the cloud for their remote users or their branch office, being able to kind of make sure everyone has that same level of protection across their organization. That's one of our big differentiators. We're one of the only vendors out there that I know of that provides both an on-prem comprehensive solution and a cloud solution. that are designed to work together, right? And share that metadata. The second piece is for our customers who utilize Infoblox as DDI, and we manage their network for DHCP and all of the things that we talked about earlier, we're able to provide a much richer view into their threats, as we talked about. I think I mentioned earlier, once you block a threat or identify a threat, there's the whole kind of after the threat life cycle with remediation, orchestration, things along those lines. That's where kind of having the benefit of utilizing Infoblox both for your network and your DNS security will allow us to provide, those additional types of metadata, things that help you identify what is the exact machine or the source IP on your network. Well, we obviously have a really good visibility into everything that's on your network for customers of Infoblox. What is the MAC address? What is the DHCP fingerprint of that device, right? Extended attributes inside of our Infoblox DDI networking configuration may contain additional insights that we can send along, like what department is the server in, or what department or resource is that user accessing. Those are all other, kind of critical, extended attributes that we can pass along to the end customer when we report a threat, so that they can help prioritize, well, which threats are they going to follow up with, how, in what time frame, and we want to help them, right, get right to the source of where that problem lies and resolve it. And lastly, I would point out that every solution out there has some of their own differentiators and how they gather and curate threat intelligence, their ability in blocking. At Infoblox, we have a lot of kind of special data sets that we develop internally here with our organic threat intelligence departments and all of our different techniques that we use, that as well as combine partner feeds from the industry experts that you can also leverage through our platform. So things like newly observed domains and DGAs or FastFlex, things that are more extend your protection suite outside of just core malware and ransomware and the things that people typically think about when they think about securing DNS. So in summary, I think it's the value that Infoblox has is kind of networking and DNS and being able to help you remediate those threats, kind of our view and capabilities around data exfiltration and tunneling protection, which is a big problem out in the industry today, as well as some of our threat intelligence capabilities and partnerships that allow us to bring kind of to the solution a very rich data set.
Yeah, well, that's well put. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about the future, right? So, let's say if you look at the crystal ball, one of the reports I recently read from Gartner was this notion of combining DNS security with a web gateway, right? And there seems to be a natural synergy there. There seems to be a natural fit. In the Gartner report, they talk about how DNS layer security can look at the communications first and block stuff that we know is malicious before forwarding the rest to like a web gateway or something. And then web gateway can do further inspection, and then if it finds something malicious, you can block it, or otherwise, the communication is let outside. So I think that's a great 1 + 1 = 3 story when you think about DNS security plus web gateway. What are your thoughts on that, Troy, and how do you see that playing out in the next few months?
Well, I think ecosystem integrations in general is, a very important part of the orchestration. I mean, the industry and customers have a big need to orchestrate their workflows with these types of solutions and have things, whether it's in this case in DNS, firewall in the cloud or on-prem, working along with their web gateway solutions, right? And so focusing on that one first, I would say, you're right. There is a lot of demand out there to offload traffic at the, from further layers down the line. And so by leveraging DNS is it's the first kind of checkpoint, if you will, in a lot of the workflows that we see with customers as these requests are made. being able to look and say, hey, is this request going to a known bad location? Do we see behavior? Is there data exfiltration or packets being assigned or associated with this DNS-based request? And being able to block those up front really offload some of that transactional work and costs into other products later, and as well as load on their network and other devices and things. So that is a big part of, you know, the solution there. I think additionally, the benefit of kind of the web gateway and DNS firewall is more of a synergy of how can we provide the best possible protection for the end customer, right? And so web gateways traditionally today focus not, and there are exceptions to some of this, but in general, they focus on HTTP-based prevention and detection. At the DNS level, right, we get requests before any of that's really relevant, whether it's HTTP or other forms of communications, right? So we're able to kind of check those requests up front, perform for the customer based on their policy control around malware and ransomware, APTs, all the other types of policy controls, the more novelty ones like newly observed domains or content categorization or filtering or policy control. We're able to kind of take that action up front and offload all of that, all of those transactions from having to be sent on to the web gateway. In cases where either the traffic looks clean to us based on DNS-based checking, we're able to still forward and redirect that traffic up to the web gateway for a deeper inspection on the actual HTTP-based traffic. So to us, it kind of represents, again, the layered security approach, whether it's in this case DNS or web gateway or any security solution. You want to be able to double check your, you know, for threats at different levels where it makes sense. And so we're happy to be partnering with a lot of great companies out there that provide web gateway product lines and to be able to bring to our customers some of these kinds of values that we just talked about.
Yeah, well put. And what we like to say here is DNS can become this first line of defense, right? So when there's something malicious, most likely DNS sees it first. So, you know, that can be used to block that activity before, you know, sending it to other parts of the ecosystem. So I think that makes a natural kind of first layer of defense. So that was that was good. I think we covered a lot of ground today. We covered a lot of topics, including why organizations are going to SaaS. What are some of the capabilities of a DNS security solution, both on-prem and cloud. So thank you so much, Troy, for all those insights. I think it's very valuable for our viewers. In summary, I would like to request our viewers, obviously go to our website. There's a wealth of information both on our website and our community site. We do offer free trials for our products, both ActiveTrust and ActiveTrust Cloud, and you'll see the links posted at the bottom of the Facebook Live. And so you could try out the eval. It's easy, as Troy mentioned. Trying out a SaaS product is so easy. Doing a POC is so easy. Just have to go sign up. You'll get an email with instructions and you're up and running, right? You can test it out, see how it works, and then obviously you can come back to discuss any further needs. But I would highly encourage everybody to try that out. And then, of course, if you have any more questions, you should contact Infoblox. But thank you so much, Troy, for joining us